or increase taxes. I think there's a third way, which is to run the government more efficiently. And we can talk more about it. But I promise you, every one of you in business, if you knew what I knew now, having looked at the government, looked at the financials, there's ways to save money here that wouldn't require cutting a program. Deploying technology, fighting fraud, there's so many ways to do this. And then last but not least, the third priority is fix our K-12 education system. Education is the way up and the way out. And I see the tragedy every day. I spent time in the LA public school system, in the San Diego public school systems, in Berkeley and Oakland, in the Central Valley. And while there are many good schools in California, the vast majority are not doing the job for our children. And I see the kids struggling to make it, where the teacher, doesn't have the resources he or she needs, where just things are in such a bad situation. And we have got to change this, because if we don't, we will end up with a second-rate workforce in a second-rate state, and we won't be the state of dreams. We will be the state of missed opportunities. So that is why I'm running for governor. It is a bias for action. There's no question about it. My mother got a chuckle about it when I told her I was going to run for governor. She said, wow. But in any case, it's been a great opportunity. And I have to say, every Californian should see California the way I have. It is a great state. We can turn this state around, but it will not be easy. It's not for the faint of heart. So with that, why don't I throw it open to questions on any subject, on the values of the book, on stories about eBay, other companies I've worked with, whatever. So please, don't be shy, don't hesitate. Yeah, right here in the second row.
Yeah. So as far as being governor and kind of the daunting task, so it seems to me like you probably found in business that knowing the right thing to do, having the right strategy is just kind of gets nowhere. The ideas have been around. So how do you imagine you can actually get people to get off of their parochial interests, how you can get people to work together, how you can get all those interests to do the right thing? How are you going to do that?
Yeah. Well, I think the first is...
Would you be kind enough
to repeat the question?
Yeah,
sure.
Stand up when they ask their question so we can all hear.
Okay.
I think repeating is probably the way to go.
So the question was, what's different about, I'm paraphrasing here, what's different about government from business is that how are you really going to get people to do what you think is the right thing to do? Having the right strategy, figuring out the right answer may be easy. Actually changing Sacramento and changing the government is much more challenging than in business. Is that a fair summary? So the first thing I would say is this is about leadership. In many ways, government, business, not-for-profit, families, it's about leadership. And I think a key element of leadership is focus. Let's focus on doing a small number of things and put all of our energy, all of our political capital against doing 3 things. And then, how do you get those done? And I think there's 4 levers the governor has, and you have to use all 4 of these. First is the appointments process. So it turns out the governor of California gets around 3,000 appointments to his or her administration. For perspective, the President of the United States gets 3,800. I mean, this is a tremendous number of appointments. And the top 30 or 40 people are absolutely essential, right? They're your agency heads, your department heads, and all the gubernatorial appointments to the boards and commissions. And if I learned anything in my business career, you are only as good as the people who work for you. And I did not run eBay by myself. And if I am governor of California, I will interview those top 400 people. They will be the right people in the right job with the right skills who are on the same agenda as I am. And that will be essential. I also think, by the way, about 1/3 of those individuals need to come from the private sector. It's almost impossible to ask government to reinvent itself without some fresh, outside-in ideas. The second point I would make is the governor has to work with the legislature, but the legislature has to work with the governor too, because the governor in California has line item veto, something the President of the United States would love to have. And so one of the things I want to do is I want to stop the bill factory that is Sacramento. Did you know that the legislature has introduced 2,000 bills, or introduced 2,000 bills in 2009 and passed nearly 1,000 of them, virtually none of which are on point to the crisis that we face. So let's not do new stuff. Let's solve the problems that we have. And I'd love to see if we can't pull this legislature together around jobs and spending and education. And how can we make the legislators, Democrats or Republicans, famous in their district for solving education, for bringing new jobs to that area, for once and for all getting government spending under control. I'm pretty convinced that we can rally this legislature around these three priorities. Republicans and Democrats and independents may have a different point of view on how we're going to get things done, but I think if we focus and give people the incentives to do the right thing, this will be very helpful. The other thing I would say is this job is not an easy job. I think it is I would say, if you have a huge need to be liked, this is not a very good job person fit. Because California is in a crisis. And think about it. Half the people will probably be upset with you all the time. And while you're taking on the education establishment, changing the business climate, fundamentally trying to restructure the costs and how we spend money in California, I think 3/4 of the people will be unhappy with you. So my view is the next governor of California has to have a spine of steel. You have to have a very clear sense of what you have been sent to do, and you've got to execute against that and lead against those priorities regardless of the pushback that you get. So that's the approach I want to take. And I think we have a good shot at making this work. What I know is the old approach isn't working. So we might as well try a different approach, because I think the old approach, we're going to, you know that saying in business, if you keep doing the same thing over again and expect different results, you won't get them. So, thanks. Yeah, in the back, the red sweater.
California's been called a unionocracy because the rates that we pay union members, government union members, and the pensions that we pay them really bust the budget. I mean, that if we solved that, that would end the budget. But of course, that's a politically hot topic. Can you address that?
Sure. So his question was about unions in California, and that part of our budget issue relates to the union pay scale and things like that. So let me make two observations. One is there's no question that the pension liability that faces us in California is unsustainable. So we have anywhere between a $60 and $100 billion unfunded pension liability for the civil servants in California. What that means in plain language is we owe more to the employees of the state of California than we can earn in the investment portfolio at a place like CalPERS or CalSTRS. So this is potentially the single biggest problem long-term facing California. $60 to $100 billion is a remarkable amount. So the way we have to look at this, in my view, is we have got to reduce the number of employees at the state level. And here's where I started with this. So it turns out this year in California, the revenues of the state will be about $83 to $85 billion. Down from well over $104 billion at its peak. The recession has had a big impact on the revenues of California. So I said, okay, when was the last time the revenues of the state of California were $85 billion? Turns out it was 5 years ago. How many more employees did we add at the state level in the last 5 years? 40,000. Today we have 357,000 people who work for the state. So as tough as it is, I think we've got to go back to, okay, let's start with the costs that ran the state 5 years ago. And let's work from there. And we can get there through attrition. 10 to 12,000 civil servants retire every year. So if we didn't hire another individual, we'd be down by 30 to 36,000 people over 3 years. That would be a big help. It's $3.5 billion a year plus the pension liability. New civil servants are going to have to come in under a different deal. The civil service today, you can retire at about age 55 with about 85% of your salary and benefits and 100% of your health care benefits till the day you die. It's just unaffordable. I mean, we can't do it in the private sector. We can't do it in the public sector. So let's start with those two things. That may get us part of the way home. If we've got decent investment results, we may get more of the way home. And then we'll have to decide, really, are we going to have to renegotiate with the existing set of employees? So I think it's the number of people and it's the pension liability. The other thing I would say is for the most technologically advanced state in America, we don't use technology to run the government efficiently.